Hi, guys. This is one of my favorite stories, The Curious Garden. It's a very hopeful story, and so I wanted to share it with you today. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days when everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for a curious boy to do. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last thing he had expected to find up here, but when he looked closer, it became clear the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Where are the flowers? Let's see. Oh, there they are. Do you see them? Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and the mosses were the first to move. They popped up further and further down the tracks and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway. Does that look like a nice place to be? It does. Oh, look, it's traveling more. After spending his spring and summer and autumn in the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. Look, there he is down below. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for the spring. After the cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Look, there's his new gear. Winter had taken a toll on the garden. But thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and his help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway, followed closely by the more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about old and forgotten things. Look, there's an old car that it's starting to grow on. And look, an old abandoned window. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. Uh-oh. Do the plants belong on the stop sign? No. And look, on the fire hydrant? No. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. Look at that pretty planter. Oh, and look, there's Liam. He's being a sneaky gardener. We call that guerrilla gardening. But the most surprising thing that popped up were all the new gardeners. Oh, look at all those beautiful new gardens. What do you think? I like this rooftop garden. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed. But of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. Look, there's Liam. He got older, and look, now he has a little boy and a wife and a daughter, and they're all gardening with him. The end. A couple of weeks ago, we planted seeds at school. I planted more seeds last week, and I'm going to show you tomorrow what they look like.